Unfortunately, the only word we know in Japanese is arigato, so I hope you, with the transcript and the translation in real time, you'll be able to enjoy the talk anyway. So, my name is Fabio Zecchini. I'm CTO and co-founder of Musement. Here with me on the stage, Cristian, our front-end software architect in Musement. Okay, it's a real pleasure to be here. By the way, probably we are the only European-based founded company presenting on the stage. And I think it's interesting, not just because we are sharing with all of you how we implemented Vue MP pages on our platform, but also because we had a great business impact on our company using this kind of technology. Let me just give you a bit overview on Musement. Musement was founded 6 years ago. The initial idea was to create a one-stop shop website, e-commerce, to buy a museum ticket and art exhibition all around the world. Then we launched in TechCrunch, New York, 1st of May 2013. So we are almost celebrating the 6th years old. And then when we come back, we fundraising a couple of million, and we start the company. Make a long story short, we are now 160 persons in the company, 20 from 25 different nationalities. Our quarter is based in Milan, but we already have offices in Berlin, Barcelona, London, New York, San Francisco, Dubai, etc. Right now, we are not selling just cultural events, but we are covering many different verticals. For example, sport exhibition, food and wine experiences, wellness, nightlife, etc. We have been acquired last year, September, by the TUI Group, the most largest travel tour operator in the world, because they are very focused on the offline business, and they are, acquire us to recreate all the digital touch point within the company. So right now, within the group, we are more than 70,000 employees, covering with an inventory catalog of more 150,000 different products, covering more than 500 cities in the world, and we have approximately 21 million customers per year. Since the very beginning, Musement has been a really data-driven company. This means that every decision we took on our company was based on data and insight from our BI team, but also from different business units of the company. So we received an input from the marketing team where we had an issue a couple of years ago. And the issue was about a specific device channel. It was mobile. Keep in mind that 70% of our revenues and traffic was coming directly from Google Ads campaign. So we've been able to track every single touch point on our customer journey. And we identify a gap just for the mobile devices visits. So receiving this alert from the marketing team, we decided to tackle this kind of issue, and we first decide which kind of goal we want to achieve. First one was, okay, of course, make it easier and faster for our customer navigate on our web page and decide between different events and activities. We also wanted to improve our click-through rate and conversion rate, of course, because of the business impact we have in this kind of KPIs. But at the same time, we also wanted to improve our ROI, our return of investment, and margin per sales. So, first time I heard about AMP pages was back in the day during a Chrome Dev Summit conference in San Francisco 3 years ago. In that moment, AMP pages were mostly being developed for publishers, so it wasn't we weren't able to replicate our platform on AMP pages. But a few years later, so 1.5 years ago, because of the new deployment with the new integration and the new feature has been updated on the AMP technology, we tried to we decided to take this as a technology to tackle this kind of issue. So with that in mind, we decided, I challenge Cristian and his team asking how can we create AMP pages on our platform. And now I leave Cristian explain how we did it.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be here in Tokyo. You have an amazing city. It's something that never ends when you look at it from the top. So, congratulations. Okay, so the first AMP release. So the first AMP we released has a lot of interesting things to consider, because Fabio made the challenge, and we accepted it. In Musement, once a week, we are lucky. We are a lucky development team. So we have a whole day to research, to spend time making experiments, to find new solutions. And we call it Tech Friday. So we don't have to publish anything in production. We don't develop to the product itself, but it's just research. And in that context, I started to think on the right way to make this AMP page prototype. So since we used Vue.js for our canonical website, Vue.js is a popular JavaScript framework like React. And the front-end team is familiar with it. And most important, we wanted to reuse what we already had for the canonical website. The first concern was, can we use Vue.js to generate AMP pages? So is there anything specific for AMP? The answer was no. So we should have created our own. OK, so thus we defined this constraint. OK, so we wanted to use Vue.js. And we decided to share this idea with the creator of the framework, Evan Yu. So in February 2018, we went to the Vue.js conference in Amsterdam, another amazing city. And we had the pleasure to stay with Evan in a training day. So besides looking under the hood of Vue.js itself, we also had the chance to tell him about the idea to generate AMP pages using the framework. In the end, our thoughts were positive, despite what we could not have used. So I'm talking about the client-side reactivity, obviously, because we could have used the template engine, the great template engine of Vue.js, and the server-side render module. So the morning after this training day, well, to be honest, after an amazing night in Amsterdam, you can imagine, we started to code our first Musement AMP page from scratch. Okay? So first things first, right? Okay. We started by writing the basic AMP HTML. We plug it to the render script. Done. Easy. And since JavaScript is not allowed in AMP, well, was not allowed, because yesterday I've heard AMP script. So, but at that time, it was not allowed. We had to remove the Webpack step. So we had to create the client-side bundle. So remove this step, OK? No bundle for client-side. And by removing it, we remove the client-side reactivity, even listeners, data bindings, and so on. Thus, we have a static page, just a static page, with AMP on board. And we can start work in the framework on this, with this static page. Okay? By coding the very first version of our AMP page, we soon had to tackle one of the most common tasks in the front-end development. And I'm talking about reuse components, so our UI building blocks. And the snippet you see on the slide shows the canonical approach with Vue.js. And once you fetch data using the API, you have a list item component in a for loop, and it works on server and client side. So when you navigate between pages in a single page up mode, the navigation and the component is the same. But the client-side canonical approach doesn't work implementing AMP, because on server we can use the view list item component. But if we want to hook the user interaction on the client and maybe apply the list item on a load more action, for instance, we have to use mustache templates. So it's another version of the same component. This was the problem. And how we shaped the rendering process. Since we use ES6 and Vue.js, we just need Webpack with few loaders. The bubble one is to transpile ES6 to ES5. Okay? URL loader is to include fonts using the URL path when you import it with the syntax. And the view loader, customized for SCSS files in order to put compiled style within a style tag in a head tag in a page, instead of using the external CSS file, which is an AMP requirement indeed. We use Express to set page on node, and therefore we define a couple of routes. Here you see, with the view component to render for that specific page, and a set of middleware functions to gather remote data and maybe set cache headers and so on. Okay? Indeed, the last middleware function is the most interesting one. It's actually the one which outputs the page using the Vue server renderer module after injecting all the data in the template context. So we did it in the end. Couple of weeks of work. Everything seems fine. But the showdown has arrived. And we had a branch with all this work with just some fine-tuning tasks to do. In Milan, in Italy, the Google team runs an event called Google AMP and Speed Hackathon, just like a contest, okay? Which is an hands-on workshop where front-end teams coming from various companies try to work on their products to improve the performances with the support of Google team, Google experts if needed. So this gave us the chance to close the Musement AMP epic and push this work in production that day. Awesome. So this was the result. So, and since it was a context, we won the first prize with this page. The venue page, the attraction page, the page Fabio was talking about. So Fabio, if you want to tell them about the insights of this page, some results.
Absolutely. So thank you, Cristian. Pretty amazing, right? Especially if you think that everything was starting after a night in Amsterdam. Yes, let me just share some insight. So what happens later? We've been able to create, of course, as a startup, you used to work very, very lean. So we just create 15 AMP pages of our top destination attraction page. And with our marketing team, we've been able to run A/B testing campaign. Result was pretty impressive. I'm going to show you result later. But on top of that, after a few weeks, we decided to go ahead. We decided to also implement not just the attraction page, but also the product page, what we call event page. This is how it looks. And by the way, one of the major constraints on our side was to have feature parity between the canonical website and the AMP website, of course. And then the purchasing process, of course, is on the canonical website. So now let me just show a video with the result of this test campaign. Pretty cool, right? Thank you. So here are the main takeaway I want to share with you. So first, okay, of course you can find all these results in a success case story already published at Think with Google website in different languages. This is the English one. But yes, the main takeaway are the following. So we've been able to improve the performance and the speed of 70% compared with our canonical website. In a couple of weeks after the test, we've been able to deploy, because of the technology we use, more than 30,000 different AMP pages across attraction page and product page. And also, the most important thing is about the business. So we've been able to increase 27% our revenue per visit. Okay, it's one of our most important KPI, but also 50% higher conversion rate. On top of that, yes, another things I want to mention is that we also, from the first weeks, we also start seeing a side effect, so a very nice side effect, the fact that we start ranking organically on SEO with these pages very, very fast. So also our organic traffic start increasing after the launch of AMP pages on our website. So what's next? Of course, we are still improving our product, our AMP pages, but now we want to go ahead. Of course, a lot of new feature has been released this week. We are going to implement for sure AMP script. We're going to implement payment as soon as it will be ready. But yes, in the meantime, we also start looking at creating a new framework merging AMP pages and progressive web app. So it was another challenge I asked Cristian and the team to work on, because we want to be ready and we want to be top of technology on our platform, because the idea is to provide always our customer the best experience possible. Cristian, tell us how it's going.
Yeah, sure. thanks again for the challenge, Fabio. So
Not boring at all.
no, never. So the idea is to create a progressive web app using AMP. Okay. So you have two options at least two options to create this kind of application using AMP. So the first one is to create a full progressive web app in which the AMP website is the progressive web app itself, because all the pages are AMP. Okay. So, and the second one is to create a progressive web app using AMP pages to warm up the cache for the canonical pages. Okay. So this is what you can do with the AMP in Service Worker installer. So I made a prototype, another one, and this time I've used always Vue.js, but using Nuxt. And Nuxt is the equivalent of Next for React. So Nuxt is for Vue.js. It provides a lot of things, like the zero configuration and server-side rendering is already working out of the box and so on. So I decided to use this tool. And what you're looking at on the right is a progressive web application. Well, progressive web amp, I call it, because it makes sense in my opinion. And it has a service worker. So it's an Hacker News Reader client. Why an Hacker News Reader? Because there's a website called hmpwa.com. Seems like I said it like a rap, but it's not rap. It's a true website, and I suggest you to give a look at it, because this website lists a bunch of progressive web applications made with different front-end frameworks, and reported score comes from Lighthouse test run. As you can see, the very, very first quick and dirty shot performs very well, 99 on 100. And to give you an idea of what's inside the PWA in AMP, I can say that it provides the basic, okay, the basics, AMP boilerplate, the client-side bundle removal, using Nuxt modules. A powerful way to extend Nuxt. So another thing that's inside is the head meta tags handlers like canonical and amp.html links. A convention to use the mustache templates without clashing with the Vue.js template interpolator, the double curly braces. And of course, the Nuxt server middleware convention, because you should work with remote data. The news is that we also published this recipe, because it's a recipe. And since it's a recipe, I think I can be the AMP chef. Okay? Therefore, you can give it a try. And if you want to contribute to improve it, yes, welcome for feedbacks, pull requests, and so on. So thank you very much.
Cool.
That's all.
Thank you very much.
Arigato.